Merry Christmas everyone and welcome. Yes, my name is Arafire and welcome to a festive episode, I suppose, of Look Out and Shout. And yeah, I am even donning a Christmas jumper. Yes, it is the same one from last year. I do not have an endless supply of this stuff. But anyway, we're back on the reviewing train, reviewing a slightly older figure because today we are reviewing Fanstoys FT-30B Iceman, their version of a G1 Air Raid. And this is a very large box. Larger than it has a right to be, considering the bot comes in robot mode. So that's quite deep. Very nice, typical Fanstoys design. Bit of a more boring design, I suppose. Now, I was actually trying to remember. This is listed as B, so we're going to do these in alphabetical order as they get released. I can't remember if this came out first, if Air Raid came out first, or if Skydive did. Did Iceman come first or Goose? I think Iceman did, but I can't be sure. He's actually on the back of the product shot as well. Both of them are. So, yeah, when you look at the product shots to some of the more recent ones, these are just plain background images where now they do a much more artistic display of their figures with rocks and settings and things like that to really sell the point of the figure. These are just kind of, well, it's a sky, it's flying as a jet, so yeah, maybe you can't do much in terms of a background. What do you put? Clouds? Inside the box, not very much. Big, deep polystyrene. Guns, extra face accessories, instructions, and a collector's card. That's about it. Let's have a look at the figure itself, shall we? And there he is in his robot mode, and that is a very, very G1 looking Air Raid. This is one of the few bots, even still in my collection today, where I look back and say, you really captured the G1 aesthetic. It couldn't look more G1. And they've just done themselves a solid job. There is a lot of back kibble here, you can see, and we'll get into that in a minute, but it's got a lot going for it. The red is lovely, breaks up the white. There is a lot of white here, I'm not going to deny, and for taking photographs of in a white background can make it a bit of a challenge. The faceplate is spot on. The backpack is large. I am realistic enough to admit that anyone turning into a jet, much less an aerial bot, will have a form of back kibble, will have a form of backpack to them. And this is no exception. So you've got to make some exceptions, but it does hang off maybe a little bit unsightly. But it's incredibly G1 looking. It is a little bit challenging to stand up because of the weight here. It's very die-cast orientated. And I've said before, that I think when they get round to the arm bots, I think there's going to be less die-cast in them to maintain the weight. I cannot see Fireflight and Slingshot weighing as much as this guy does to hold an arm pose or any kind of outward arm movement. But anyway, that's enough of that. Let's get in for a closer look. So if I bring him a bit more to the camera and you get zoomed in on that head sculpt a bit, you can just see how G1 that looks. He comes with two faces, so I put on a shouty face. It just captures the personality straight from... Oh, no. It captures that personality straight from the cartoon into toy form brilliantly. These shoulder pads are a tiny bit annoying, much more for transformation, but if you want to get a bit of a head rotation, part of his face can be covered. A minor annoyance, but that's all it is. Articulation, as you just saw, left and right. He can look up a bit, can look up that far. Shoulder rotation out on a softer ratchet, outward friction. Bend at the elbow singular, wrist rotation individual, finger movements. However, I have a problem with mine. That pinky finger will not bend. It will bend flat, but it will not bend at the knuckle. Now, I realised this the second I took it out and when I got it transformed up for the first time. And I thought, as with a lot of transformers, the hands tend to fold inside the forearm. And I thought, am I not going to be able to fold that fist flush enough to get that inside the arm? Fortunately, I can, and it's just not been cut, which does annoy me, the fact that it's got a QC sticker on it and no one would have checked, okay, one of the smaller parts on the body, the last digit on a finger, but it is something that could have stopped it from transforming, and that really would have been a problem. I find that quite baffling, really. How can a little finger be a problem? But think of it, if I couldn't transform it into jet mode, I probably wouldn't be able to put that away to transform it into combine mode. It's making the leg for a combiner. All of that potentially could have been stopped by his little finger. Maybe I'm being a bit pedantic, but I was a little bit panicky at the time, and I thought, oh, that could be a problem. Fortunately for me, despite it being a bit of a QC issue, fortunately for me, it's not a problem. Now, I think people are going to disagree with this. There is a motion of a waist rotation, but not a meaningful one. You can turn it, and there is movement, but you can't separate the backpack or bits of it clashing in a way. And I think, if I remember rightly, as this is a bit of an older figure, this received a bit of criticism at the time for not having a waist rotation. It is difficult, however, when you've got the upper part of the jet and the lower part of the jet almost fused together and stuff in a way. So even if you did get a waist rotation, what would it look like? You'd have this kind of stuff just kind of flapping everywhere. At least this way, it stays behind the figure. It's not great, I would like one, but I understand, again, when it comes to jet bots. Friction out at the hip, which is pretty good. Bend at the knee. The knees are probably the weakest parts of this, and I'll show you that in final thoughts at the end. But a nice ankle rotation as well. The feet are very small, and there's possibly too much weight here for them to be that small. I would have liked to have had a deeper heel, maybe. It's just very much a stump that folds underneath, but if you get the positioning wrong, see, he will topple because he's so back heavy. You can pose him right, you can get him right, and he will hold, but it is still a very heavy figure that has trouble posing. This is why I say I don't think the last two releases will be as heavy as this. I don't think they will maintain the weight. And here he is holding two of his accessories. He comes with two pistols, and I like that. I can't remember particularly from the cartoon if he had two pistols or a singular pistol or rather just one gun. Certainly the original G1 toy just had the one gun that would more or less clip over his hand or arm. This one comes with two fitted pistols into the base of the palm, typical pegs, and I like the gunslinger approach here. It gives a kind of sharpshooter-esque rather than one massive weapon. They're fairly straightforward to plug in, and yeah, maybe a little bit on the small side, but again, they're small pistols rather than large rifles. And that's how he looks with them on. And just to show you his other accessory that he comes with is another faceplate. He comes with this one straight out of the box, and it's a placid face, and it's very placid at that. I don't think you'll see it, but it's a very muted expression. It's very, yeah, it's got the eyes and a very somber mouth. And when you get it on, which is quite easy to take off and plug in, this is definitely the duller of the two. That is a much more of an action face, a shouty face, which I would prefer, and I think suits him much better. Okay, now on to some comparisons. Here he is alongside Takara's MP17, their Prowl. A typical Masterpiece car bot for reference, quite a bit taller. Possibly right, you know my views around the car bot scale by now, but the aerial bots were bigger, so I will possibly concede that. I will say that the aerial bots did stand quite shoulder to shoulder, very much so with being a combiner in mind. Here he is alongside Takara's MP52, their revised Seeker design. I've said before, I think that Seeker design is too small, and when you get these two together, you really do see it. They should be standing level, and okay, this is Fanstoys and this is Takara, but you should be aiming for a similar scale range, and well, that's a bit off for me putting these two together. I mean, they do look G1, I can't say they don't, and very hyper-tuned, but yeah, when you really see other bigger Masterpiece bots alongside these Seekers, you really do get a sense for how small these are. Now this is much more like it. Here he is alongside Defamation Space version of Thundercracker. These two are shoulder to shoulder. If anything, maybe Thundercracker's bigger. It's quite a big bot in hand, but this is much more in keeping. These guys should be level. They should be fighting in dogfights in the sky, and their bot mode should represent that. I'm a big fan of this Seeker mold. Not its transformation though, if you remember my Starscream review. Here he is with his creator. Here he is alongside MP44, Takara MP44 Optimus Prime. Maybe Prime's a tad too small. I know they were big, and okay, he's not as tall as Prime or even taller than Prime, but he's closer than I would have thought, and I would have always got the impression that Prime would have been a fair bit bigger. But different companies, different designs, and Prime scales with a lot of others well anyway, so I don't know, I just wonder if Prime should have been that bit taller still. But they look good together nevertheless. A bit of a sneak peek for you. Here he is alongside Fanstoys Goose, their next one that I'll be reviewing in this line. So yeah, that's how these two leg bots scale together, which again should be right. They are made by the same company and with legs in mind, I suppose. Pretty cool seeing these two together. But why stop there? I might as well get all three of them in, mightn't I? This is Maverick in the middle here, Fanstoys A, B and C, FT-30 A, B and C. So when you get all three of them together, yeah, this set's going to look something when it's done. I still am not totally decided how I'm going to display them when we finish. God knows it's been a long time. But when you get the three of them together and you just got that screaming tune accuracy coming at you, yeah, it's pretty cool. And you can see here that Goose is a bit on the smaller side, but we'll worry about that another day. Iceman scaling with his two comrades that are out on the market so far and have been for some time. It hopefully shouldn't be much longer till we get a fourth member of the set. But that looks really, really cool. Okay, let's get this flyboy transformed up, shall we? And here he is in his vehicle mode, and that is a fantastic looking F-15 Eagle jet. Yes, I did have to Google what that was, but that looks spectacular. When it transforms out, it is a proper chunky masterpiece size big black military jet, and it looks brilliant. You could argue it's a bit dull, boring, as it's the whole same colour, but there's a sleekness here all the way along the back. Even the white underside, and the underside of a jet we can always say is quite unsightly. It somewhat breaks it up a little bit where you see glimpses of it by the wings. So that's here with the landing gear all out and the guns attached on the underside. This is where I wish they were maybe a little bit bigger, so they protruded a bit more beyond the wings so you could see them more. But that's pretty cool. We got weapon storage, we got perfect standing. The transformation was pretty simple, and I've said this about some of the more modern Fanstoys releases. Okay, this was a 2020 figure, but these are bigger, these are full of die casts, and maybe the articulation isn't super posable or super effective, but the transformation is quite simple. And yes, the kibble is all hanging off the back of the figure, so you just have to apply it simply, but it's pretty good, and it holds. A couple of tabbing in issues. The wings would like to pop off a little bit, but they peg back on, and once you get it all tidied up, that's the end result. I think that's great. I really do. It's just a brilliant masterpiece sized jet. Let's get in for a closer look. So if I can pick him up, you can sort of see how big he is to my hand. That's what we're talking. Very heavy, very big, lovely detail. Movable jet thrusters, because why not? And yeah, that's how he looks. This is the underside of it. Now, yes, it is just a robot collapsed up. I have turned around, if you can see it, the face. Otherwise, his face would be staring at you. I don't know if that's the right thing or not, but that's what I prefer to do. But yeah, everything tabs away well. And it's just really, really nice. You put all the wheels away, you get a sense of a cleanness to it. Just simply fold away, and that's how he would look, I suppose, in flight. For those wondering, the nose cone does not open like it does on some of the Takara molds, but the cockpit does. And you can get a little bit of detailing of a cockpit on the inside where a fighter pilot would go. And hinges back down shut again. Okay, you could argue there's not an awful lot more you could do with a jet, but weapon storage to size, to scale, that's brilliant. It's everything a masterpiece air raid needs to be. Okay, this could be a bit limited here, but onto some comparisons. And you can see what I mean by masterpiece jet. Here he is alongside Deformation Space, Starscream, their version of, I guess, an F-16? Or is it an F-22? Planes are not my forte. I love how they look, but I know he's an F-15. Maybe he's an F-16 Raptor? I don't know. But getting these two together, you really do see the size and scale from two different companies, and I really do like how these look. You could imagine them in a dogfight quite happily. Yeah, two different companies, two different approach, similar style. The Seeker Jet style, or rather the Seeker Jet scale, has kind of been the standard bearer for many years, and this is no exception. You've got a different company doing a Autobot jet, which are few and far between, and now you got them together. That looks great. You could easily have these guys hanging around off your ceiling or some kind of flight stand in some dogfight battle. I think that looks so cool. I won't do a comparison of the Zeta Toys version of Air Raid, but you can see that in my Zeta Toys Bruticus video that I posted some time ago where I did compare them at the time. The only other comparison I've got is this, which is my G2 Air Raid from back in the day. I got the set a long time ago in the G2 colours, and Air Raid was instantly my favourite. I don't know why. I really don't know why. I mean, I've always been a fan of Silverbolt, but getting Air Raid with like webbing on his wings, big 2 as well. I don't know. I always took a shine to him, so I've kept him. It's the only other Air Raid in my collection. I never had a G1 one until now. And so yeah, sorry, that's all I've really got in terms of comparisons for this jet. But really, you just need to see it alongside the Deformation Space Seeker to know really what you're getting. So what are my final views on this majestic thing? Well, I think I've just kind of summed it up really. Air Raid was always a favourite of mine. When you get it in this mode, whilst you can't do a lot with a jet, once it's in jet form, it's brilliant. It's big, it's really quite big. It's got a real aggressive look to it. That black is surprisingly reflective. I've put the stickers on, I don't think I made that clear, for robot mode on his chest and now on his nose cone as well. I've done that myself. I just think it gives a bit more aesthetic look to it. I will try and do it on the wings, but I'll be annoyed if they don't line up, but that's on me. When you get the three of them together, when you get Silverbolt, Air Raid and Skydive together, this set is really one to kind of marvel at. To a lot of points, that how many people have said they might not combine this set when it's all said and done. I've got the Zeta aerial box combiner. I've got the Zeta Kronos Superiotron, their Superion. I'm very happy with that as a combiner. That's really that figure's selling point. But these guys look so good. And we always say when it comes to triple changer toys, one mode ends up being sacrificed. So far, with these Fanstoys aerial bots, that has not been the case. The bot mode is limited. I don't know if that's the right word. It's limited, but it's expected limitations because of the amount of back kibble that's there. There's no waist rotation, or if there is, it's very minimal, quite gangly. It's got a lot hanging off the back of it, but the transformation is quite straightforward. Okay, there is a very hard push in that you have to do with this nose cone from the back of the robot mode to then clip upwards, and it does make a bit of a disconcerting click, but I've transformed this a few times now since I've had it, and whilst it's firm, it doesn't break. It's very heavy. This is a very heavy jet. Lots of die cast, sturdy plastic. Bits don't really want to tab off, and if they do, they just push back down again. It's wonderful. I really, really do like it. If you've got your Seekers or cone heads in this kind of mold, you can easily put the aerial bots alongside them to have kind of dogfight battles. I like the weapon storage. It comes with one other faceplate, which you can't store in this mode, so that's going to live in a box, presumably. And yeah, it harks back to a time of a bit more simplistic Fanstoys designs. Now, okay, on my issue, there is a problem with the finger. The finger doesn't bend down, but I was lucky. That's just on my copy. That's just a QC issue with this one. I haven't heard of anyone else say that. I'm just very lucky that that didn't affect transformation and or combination. Now, I will say we still don't know fully how these guys are going to combine. We know that there's going to be a skeletal frame at the handoff, but what mode they go into, how he's going to become a leg. Maybe you could work it out, but it's not clear even now. We'll find out when we get there, when the final figure comes out, or rather when Slingshot comes out, whether that's the next one or not, and to see how this set will combine. And there will be a video on that when the time comes, believe you me. I'm so impressed with this as a figure. As I say, Air Raid was one of my favourites. I'm really glad I got this figure, and they've done such a good job of it. The red of the chest for the bot mode, the white is very nice. The black is surprisingly not light absorbing. There's a lot to like about this figure. If you are very much wanting the aerial bots or just G1, that's why I say they look so good. They look straight out the cartoon. I might just keep these in robot mode or have them flying on the stand that will come out for all 5 of them in their jet modes. I think they look so good together. Yeah, it's been a bit of a home run. However long this has been, as I said, on the front of the box, this was a 2020 release, and here I am reviewing it in 2023, end of 2023, and it will be 2024 at least until the next 2 offerings come out. So 2019, wasn't it, for Silverbolt? 5 years to see this journey through. I do really like this though. Putting it in this mode and having it going around, I could easily just store it in my collection like this. I love how it looks in both modes. It is very heavy, does have a tendency to topple back a little bit, so you have to stand it right, but it's not as bad as some. I love the jet mode. The accessories are a bit limited, but I've done a video on that recently. You know, do I want loads of accessories? What am I going to do with them? I like the accessories for what it comes with. I like how they apply. I don't have to lose them. It just looks great, and I'm so happy it's in my collection. Based on this, and maybe with a little bit of rose tinted view, I'm giving this figure 4.5 Rodimus Star Badges. I do really love Air Raid, I like Fanstoys, and I like this toy as a figure. I think it's very well done. It's big. It's very much the intimidating jet it needs to be. The only thing I'd say that holds it back is maybe lack of articulation, perhaps, with it being okay, but doesn't hold too many poses. It's very back heavy. I do think the ankles could have been bigger to take the weight a bit more. I would have liked a bit more of an ankle tilt. There is some, but enough to get a wider stance, maybe a bit better knee bend as well. But these are often made with a combined mode in mind. I know there's going to be a skeletal frame to take the weight, but we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to criticise this figure too much because we don't know what its final form is going to be just yet. And there we go, that is my long-awaited review of Fanstoys FT-30B Iceman, their version of a G1 Air Raid. I'll stick some photos up at the end. Thanks for watching. Have a great Christmas if that's what you're doing. Have a great holidays or just a great break. And I hope you get lots of Transformers from Santa. Because as always, I will see you on the next one.